My husband set up hidden cameras, caught us, and uploaded it to this site for everyone to see. Marriages aren't perfect, and mine was no exception. I had been married to Victor for 4 years when we both noticed that things were going south. If you've been in a relationship, you'll know what I'm talking about. It wasn't anything in particular, we just had a lot of issues. We argued a lot, and I was finding him less and less attractive every day. Don't blame me, I couldn't help it. Our marriage became too stale, and I soon found myself not feeling the need to work on us as a couple. And if there's anything that we can all accept about marriages and relationships, it is that they require work from both parties involved. Now, Victor was clearly putting in the effort, but all that did was just make us argue a lot more. One time he tried making me a romantic dinner, but I was already pissed coming home from work. He went all out with roses and scented candles. When I saw all the flowers he displayed on the floor from the entrance door, I lost it and called his attempt at romance childish. Our marriage had hit an invisible force, one that we didn't know how to go through, and I was willing to even try. All I knew was that I didn't think we were getting a breakthrough anytime soon. And one of the more cruel things I did came when he suggested something to help us grow closer and heal our marriage. He suggested that we have a child. I basically lost my mind. I called him cruel and evil for even thinking up something so stupid when I was at a very crucial point in my career. He tried explaining to me that pregnancy and a child were things that could bring a couple together, but I did not see the value in anything he said. All I could understand from his words was that he wanted to shoot down my dream of getting a promotion and that he was bored of me and wanted someone else to hang out with, which was why he wanted a child. I was bitter about his suggestion that I didn't think about how my words affected him. And goodness me, our intimate life was a complete mess. It was almost non-existent. And when he tried to introduce new things into the bedroom to spice things up and try to give our marriage the thrust it needed, it didn't end well. I'd yell at him for trying something new, calling it stupid. And sometimes I just got up and walked away. And on the days I didn't feel like bringing hell down on him, I just lay still and let him do what he wanted without even blinking or saying anything. At some point, he became completely exhausted with even trying because it seemed pointless, and he almost gave up altogether. We had agreed at the beginning of our marriage that we were going to go the first 3 years without a child before we started trying. So I was the one who was in breach of our agreement. And to make sure that no silly mistakes took place, I went on birth control without his knowledge. I was against getting a child as much as possible, and I made it known to my husband whenever he brought up the idea, but I also took the extra steps needed to make sure things weren't out of my control. One day while my husband was being intimate with me, I let him do what he wanted while I was checking up on some work on my laptop. I was barely paying any attention to him, and he whispered something about making a baby into my ear. I sprang up and shouted at him. He tried to calm me down, but I wasn't having it. I called him all sorts of names and refused to settle down or listen to anything he had to say. That was when he lost it and scolded me as well. He told me that I was going against everything we agreed on, but he concluded by saying it was fine and that he would never bring it up, stating that we could go our entire lives without having a child because he was completely tired. That sudden declaration and outburst came as a complete shock to me, but it was bound to happen sooner or later. There's only so much a man could take. After that, my husband basically buried himself in his work. He began working extra hours and taking up the tasks that no one at work wanted to take up. He started like a man who had nothing else holding him back and nothing else to live for. I always claimed I was busy, but my husband made me feel like I was jobless because he was never home. He could stay days on end without coming home. It was like he was the manager of the company, but I didn't think even the manager worked as hard as my husband. I felt like I had the house to myself. He came in only once or twice a week, and when he came home, he barely stayed up for 2 hours. He'd just take his bath, pick up some clothes, and he was gone. And if I were home, he'd greet me the same way you'd greet a neighbor you don't really talk to but exchange pleasantries with. He'd just say good morning or good evening, nothing more. And honestly, I didn't mind. I didn't even care. I was just happy that he wasn't trying so hard to save our marriage anymore because it was getting on my nerves. One evening I had a meeting with one of my bosses. That was the first time I had been invited out by someone so high up, and I was excited. In my head, that was it. I had done it. I had achieved what I had been working so hard for. I was happy about it and dressed in my best. The venue for the meeting was a VIP bar at a hotel. I got there with the biggest chip on my shoulder. My boss was already waiting for me. I took a seat opposite him, and he offered me a drink. We got talking, and he told me that all my hard work has not gone unnoticed. He told me that the time had come for me to swim with the big sharks. I knew that these were all building blocks to the actual thing he wanted to say. I was just waiting for him to say the words. He put his hand in his suit pocket and pulled out a card. He placed the card in front of me and told me congratulations. I looked at the card, and I saw my name and the position I had been promoted to under my name. I gasped and covered my mouth with both my hands. I couldn't believe it. I knew that was what I was coming there for, to be promoted. But seeing my name on that card with the position I had pursued for so long, that was a lot to take in. When I reached for the card, my boss held my hand. He looked into my eyes and told me that once I picked up that card, I was a different person with a different life and a lot of responsibilities. He told me to think about it before I picked it up. There was nothing for me to think about. I just gently pulled my hand out of his grasp and picked up the card. He smiled and told me that I was a shark now, and I needed to start acting like it. He then got up and left the bar. I breathed a sigh of relaxation because I was worried that he would try to make sensual advances towards me, but thankfully he didn't. I mean, who wouldn't think that? A meeting at the bar of a hotel, it wasn't the usual spot to get the news of your promotion. I finished my drink and rushed home, but by the time I got there, all the excitement simmered down because there was no one for me to tell about my promotion. There was no one to celebrate with me. I just sat down on the couch, and I think that was the only time I thought about how much I missed my husband and how we used to be happy together. But I didn't want to dwell on that. I mean, I just got promoted. I wasn't about to sit there and be moody. So I went out again that night. I didn't exactly have any friends, at least not anyone close enough for me to call and hang out with. So I just went back to the VIP bar where I had met my boss. I ordered an entire bottle of whiskey and sipped slowly as I nodded to the calm music that was playing in the background. I didn't realize when I consumed more than half of the bottle, and I didn't know how drunk I was until I felt my stomach rumble, and I tried to get up to go get something to eat, and I felt the entire room spinning. I fell back on the chair I had just gotten up from, and I chuckled. I don't even know what I found hilarious, but I clearly was very drunk. And in my drunken state, I saw a handsome face over me. He asked if I was okay. I chuckled a little more and told him that I was perfectly fine. He told me that I didn't look like it, and that if I needed any help, I should just say so. I chuckled and told him I didn't need any help. I told him my life was perfect. I showed him the card I just got from my boss and told him that I had just been promoted and I was out celebrating. He said I didn't look like I was celebrating. Then I told him that the road to success is an often lonely one. He sat with me and said that it didn't have to be lonely. I was drunk, but my goodness, he was gorgeous and well-spoken. And the way he talked to me like we were old pals, it just made me curious. We got talking, and he took me to a restaurant where we ate, and I drank water. The effects of the alcohol lessened, and at the end of the night, he offered to take me home. I was being swept off my feet and impressed by him, so I agreed. He drove me home, and when he dropped me off, he didn't try anything more. He just told me that since I was getting good cards today, he should give me one more, referencing my promotion card. He gave me his card and told me to call if I found him interesting enough. Then he drove off. He was so charming that when I went to sleep that night, I kept dreaming about him. The next morning was a weekend, so I stayed in. Victor came back that morning, took his bath, grabbed some clothes, and was about to leave the house. I opened my mouth to call him to a stop and tell him that I had been promoted, but I didn't, or I couldn't. I just watched him leave. After he left, I picked up the card that the handsome fellow from the previous night gave me. I looked and I saw his name, Stephen, on the card. Just the mere sight of his name made me smile. I wanted to call him, but I kept telling myself not to. I didn't want it to be that easy, so I kept the card. Later that evening, I got a call from one of my bosses. She congratulated me and asked me to come out. I was quite stunned by the invite, so I got dressed that evening and went to meet her. On getting there to the venue, I met a handful of my bosses and some of the staff of the company. The level of ethical boundaries that were being broken at that party was nothing short of jaw-dropping. I saw junior staff kissing up to senior staff members and the senior staff having their way with the junior ones. It was shocking to watch. They all congratulated me when I got there, and they asked me to party with them. I joined in. We drank and kissed. There was a lot of groping. It was a lawless place where no one had any limits. I can't recall exactly what happened because I was too drunk by the end of the night, but I think I got intimate with some of my bosses that night. I was dropped off in front of my house, and I literally had to sleep there till morning because I couldn't find my keys in my bag. When I woke up in the morning, I was freezing cold. I checked for the key, and it was right there in my bag. I unlocked the door and went in, then slept properly. When I woke up later in the afternoon, I felt a hole in my heart. I felt lonely, cold, and empty. I didn't feel like I was the winner. I didn't feel like I had achieved my dream of being promoted. I guess it's true what they say. Moments are only special when there's someone to share them with. I freshened up and picked up my phone. I slowly scrolled through my contacts, looking for the right person to call. There was absolutely no one. I couldn't call my husband Victor because I'd broken that bridge. The next thing my mind went to was Stephen. I quickly looked for his card and called him. It rang for about 10 seconds before he picked up. The way his voice calmed me down and filled me up when he said hello, it made me smile. I introduced myself, but he didn't even need me to finish the introduction before he remembered who I was. He was so excited I called. But he asked me what took me so long to call him. I laughed and said that playing a little hard to get never harmed anyone. He chuckled, and I told him I wanted to see him. I told him I could stop thinking about him. He smiled and said he thought I'd never ask. He took me out to dinner that evening. We ate and talked, and when it got late, he drove me home. This time, he walked me to my door, and I invited him in. He was happy to come in. We had the most amazing sensual moments I had ever had in my entire life. Nothing I had ever done with my husband came close to that night. It was surreal. The next morning, we both needed to wake up early to get to work. He gave me a kiss and told me he'd call me, then he left. I went to work, feeling so fulfilled and happy. I hadn't felt that good in a very long time. Even my colleagues at work noticed it. They kept asking me if I was that happy about the promotion or if there was something else. I mostly told them to mind their business. After work that day, I met with Stephen again. This time I went back to his place. We had another great night. We met each other every day for the next week at both of our houses. One weekend, after a long night of satisfying ourselves, Stephen got dressed and left. Barely a minute later, Victor came home. He had this ominous look on his face, like he was looking for something, like he was suspicious of something. I think he passed Stephen's car as he was driving down the road, and we were the only ones that lived on that road. He came into the room and looked at how scattered the bed was. He didn't bother to greet me this time, and I didn't mind. He asked me if I was alone. I scoffed at his question and walked into the bathroom. This time, I was the one that got freshened up, got dressed, and left the house. I went to the mall to buy some clothes, and in my heart I was honestly thankful that Victor didn't catch Stephen and me in bed, naked and in each other's arms. Geez. That would have been a disaster, but it wasn't a disaster that I could avoid for very long. I had no idea that karma was coming for me as fast as lightning. I stayed out for the whole day, shopping, and I met with Stephen in a hotel. We made love again that evening, but I didn't go home. I stayed overnight, and when I got home the next morning, the house was very neat. I didn't seem to understand why my husband had taken the time to clean up the entire house. It was properly arranged and sparkling clean. And I made it known to my husband whenever he brought up the idea, but I also took the extra steps needed to make sure things weren't out of my control. One day while my husband was being intimate with me, I let him do what he wanted while I was checking up on some work on my laptop. I was barely paying any attention to him, and he whispered something about making a baby into my ear. I sprang up and shouted at him. He tried to calm me down, but I wasn't having it. I called him all sorts of names and refused to settle down or listen to anything he had to say. That was when he lost it and scolded me as well. He told me that I was going against everything we agreed on, but he concluded by saying it was fine and that he would never bring it up, stating that we could go our entire lives without having a child because he was completely tired. That sudden declaration and out. He had even changed the position of a lot of things in the house. I was quite stunned. In my head, I was curious. I wondered if this was a new way of him trying to fix our marriage. I didn't care. None of it mattered to me. I was just excited to have the house cleaned up so nicely. I checked the entire house to be sure that Victor wasn't home, and when I was sure he wasn't, one thing came to mind. The only thing I could think of was sleeping with Stephen in the house my husband had cleaned. That was how messed up I was. I called Stephen and asked him if he wanted to come over for a little bit. He joked about how a little bit was never a little bit with me. Stephen came over in the evening with some cookies and flowers. He didn't even need to knock because I had given him a key to the house. He unlocked the door and came in, calling my name in a sing-songy tone that made me so excited. I ran from the room to the living room, where I basically jumped on him. He hugged me like he hadn't seen me for weeks. I loved that about Stephen and me. He was practically the light of my life at that point. If I was having a dark and moody day and I got a call from Stephen, my mood would light up like the morning sun. He gave me a kiss, and we didn't even get to say anything else to each other. We just kissed our way into the bedroom and took off our clothes. Then we got right to it. It wasn't just once. It happened so many times that night, all over the house. We couldn't keep our hands away from each other. By the end of the night, we had scattered the entire house in our heat of passion. In the morning, we had another moment before Stephen left. On Monday morning, I got dressed and went to work. From the moment I stepped through the office doors, everyone was looking at me with different expressions. Some faces were judgmental, some were shocked like they never expected what they were seeing, some were disgusted, and some were impressed. But I was clueless about what was going on. I went straight to my office and pulled out my phone. I was curious if there was some circular that I didn't receive. I checked the company group chats and my department group chat. I saw a link to a website on both group chats. I had been so preoccupied with Stephen and all the passionate moments we were having. There were hundreds of messages on all the group chats. I clicked on the link. I was taken to a site. All it had was videos. I played the first one, and it was a video of Stephen and me making love. I screamed at the top of my voice, pulling my hair as I shouted. I played the next video and the next. The videos were made each and every time Stephen and I slept together over the weekend. I was losing my mind. On leaving the office, the CEO of our company called me into his office. That had never happened. I was shocked and scared to the bone. I went to his office, and he asked me what I was thinking, sending links to my personal videos on company group chats. I told him it wasn't me. I explained that I had nothing to do with that, and that somebody was targeting me. He shook his head and told me that whatever the case may be, I am supposed to keep my private life private. And as such, he told me that as a punishment, I was getting suspended indefinitely. I nearly lost my mind. I couldn't get up. I just got my promotion. I just got Stephen. My life was starting to feel good again, and now this happened. I went to see Stephen first. He asked me what was going on, and I explained it all to him. By the time I was done, he was speechless. I told him that we needed to figure out who did this. And his reply baffled me. He told me that there was no we, that whoever did this was clearly after me alone and not him, so he was going to protect himself. I was startled by how selfish Stephen suddenly became. His idea of self-preservation was him abandoning me and throwing me to the wolves. I didn't know where else to go, so I went home. I saw Victor on his car in the compound as I got in. He was looking at me with the most mischievous smile. It was a smile that was obvious and scary. He chuckled slightly and walked into the house. I angrily followed him into the house, calling his name loudly, but he didn't answer. He stopped in the room and looked at me. I didn't even ask. He told me that I was simplistic and stupid, and that I was too blind to notice all the cameras he set up in the house. He said he knew I could be very careless, but he never expected me to be stupid and careless as well. He told me he fixed cameras that day when I came home to see the entire house clean and rearranged. He was suspicious, and I confirmed his suspicions in the most dramatic way. He said I made it too easy. He told me that I took away his dream of a family, so he took my job and reputation away. He said he wasn't going to stop there, that he was going to take everything from me. Update. Hello, everyone. My life has been on a complete downslide for some time now. My husband threw me out of the house and even filed for divorce. As though that were not enough, my videos went viral because Victor refused to bring them down. And it didn't matter. The videos were downloadable, so people were able to get them on their phones. My reputation is ruined. I got a letter from my job terminating my employment. I was no longer suspended. I was now fired. Finding a job and a house was difficult. No one would employ me, and I didn't have enough money to rent a house and furnish it. I had to travel to my parents' house, the last place I wanted to be, because we weren't on good terms. My father told me that he knew I'd be back because I was always a loose cannon. That broke me. I couldn't believe it. At my age, I am broke, homeless, jobless, and without a husband. And there was no hope of getting any of those back anytime soon. My life is a complete mess, and I am lost in life without Victor.